if you configure your life so that what you are genuinely doing is aiming at the highest possible good, then the things that you need to survive and to thrive on a day-to-day basis will deliver themselves to you.
LA, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Zach. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So for my audience, I'd like you to just take a moment and basically introduce yourself.
I'm an author, filmmaker. I've penned 13 books. Number 14 is about to, sometime this year, we'll probably have it out. As a filmmaker, I co-produced and was the host of the Watchers series. There are 10 episodes of that. And then we started our own film production. My business partner, Richard Shaw, passed away about 3 years ago. And so we kind of separated in around 2016. He wanted to do one thing and we were just going in different directions after 10 shows. So I think there's 14 films now. I lost track. 14 films. The most current one is on the crop circle phenomena. The one before that is on the abduction phenomena. So we've got basically 5 films in the whole UFO series. There'll probably be 8 altogether. We're off to Parts Unknown to film number 6.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I bought one of your books that I found very interesting. Countermove. Yeah. So I was looking at your own take on the Mesopotamian civilization in Sumer, and I found it very interesting. You mentioned in Countermove this seed war that has to do with the pre-flood world and coming into the new world through the first civilization. I'd like you to talk a little bit about that.
Well, from the biblical narrative, unless a person comes to grips with Genesis 3:15, and it's just amazing how people tap dance around this. But when you read Genesis 3:15, it basically says that your seed will be at enmity at war with the seed of the woman. So he's talking to the dragon. Jesus is there in the garden, pre-incarnate Christ, let's call it a theophany, in the garden, talking to the dragon and saying, your seed, your offspring will be at enmity at war with the offspring of the woman. The one coming from the woman will crush your head. Well, the dragon doesn't want to hear that. And so this is why it's a seed war. And unless it's not really taught in mainline churches at all. There are some churches that I go to that's why they have me there, to expound on it. But unless a person comes to grips with Genesis 3:15, they really have no idea what's going on in the rest of the biblical prophetic narrative. So the Genesis 3:15 statement is absolutely crucial, and I mean crucial, in coming to a real understanding of what is going on this planet.
Now that brings me to my next point, or question rather. So a lot of people are confused about the alien phenomena that's going on, or the demonic phenomenon more in reality. How did the Nephilim, in your opinion, survive the flood in smaller numbers? Because a lot of people, they're kind of ignorant to this sort of thing. They're like, well, if these sort of Nephilim existed today, then why don't we see them all the time? And I'm just like, well, it's kind of like the trapdoor spider analogy, where these sort of things are very rare in occurrence. But what's your take on this?
Well, they are manifesting. We've got reports from people. They look different. They're not necessarily giants, although there are giants. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I was threatened because of our work, Watchers 10, on the Kandahar Giant. It's there. It's real. There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
And I've got numerous sources on that. Other than the 2, Steve Quayle had an encounter with a pilot that flew one out. Our shooters, completely different year, different locations, whole different deal. So we know that there's 2 of them. But I have other sources that have come forward anonymously that have basically elaborated on what I know, and that's all I'll say. They're there. The government knows about them. That's why I was threatened by the deep state in 2016, actually 15, right before the election.
Hmm.
For the election. And when 16 happened and Trump won, everything changed.
Hmm. Yeah, I have a lot of friends that are involved in the special forces community right now, so we all know this Kandahar Giant story that surfaced many years ago. I understand that you have interviewed the person that was actually there. I haven't gotten around to watching that documentary that you published with him being in it, but there's some people asking questions about the Kandahar Giant. I feel like that's an avenue of approach in terms of introducing some of these people to this world.
It was real, and it's problematic because we don't know how old it is. Is it 3,000 years old? It could be 3,000 years old. So Joshua and Caleb are going into the promised land. The Nephilim giants are getting slaughtered by God, and they flee. There's a diaspora. We know that. That's our hypothesis. And I think we've proven that with the Paraka skulls that you see behind me, because the haplogroups from many of those elongated skulls showed a Middle Eastern origin. That rewrites history. Of course, the academics won't even look at it. But I was actually a molecular biologist. I was at the Prophecy Watchers Conference over the weekend. And on Sunday morning, a molecular biologist came up, introduced himself, and just said, off the record, LA, you have to understand, I'm an academic. I'm in academia. But you have to understand that your work on the Paraka skulls, it's changing the paradigm. No one will say that, but it's having a ripple effect on what people want to look at. And the bottom line is this. I mean, just like America Stonehenge, and I realize I'm bouncing all around, but when I think it's the greatest archaeological discovery was America Stonehenge, which with Kelsey Stone discovered with the summer solstice standing stone. That rewrites history. It does. Now, once again, most mainstream archaeologists will look at that and poo-poo it, and, well, it's a coincidence. Well, what about all the other standing stones that are around there that point to other sites like Chaco Canyon, like Teotihuacan, Machu Picchu, the Canary Islands, Stonehenge, England, and finally the Great Pyramid of Giza? There is a hidden history, Zach, that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. I mean, there's no doubt about that. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And the reason why it's been sort of obfuscated or, tucked under the rug, because it proves the biblical prophetic narrative. It shows and points back to the supernatural worldview. And the Darwinists hate that. They can't stand it because it blows their whole theory right out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a God and God created everything, then you can't have Darwin. You can't have God doing his thing in Darwin, although there are theologians that say, well, absolutely, it could have been, theistic evolution. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. He spoke it into existence, just like when Jesus was here and he did all of his miracles. So, if you're a theistic evolutionist, good luck with that.
Yeah, that's adaptation versus evolution, right? The biblical narrative literally tells us that you have Noah and his sons that have these long lifespans right after the flood, and you see their families and their family members over time with these long lifespans drop tremendously as they enter this new ecological system that is the modern world. That's an interesting take that Nephilim could be of that age from that time period, speaking from that biblical narrative.
Zach, we just don't know. And this is what's I don't have all the answers. There's not a human being on the planet that has all the answers. But that's why we're on the trail. That's why we keep doing what we're doing. It's strange. All I know, and we're working on some of this in On the Trail of a Nephilim, episode number 8. Finally, it's been over a year since we've released anything because we've been focusing on the UFO film. So I'm actually circling back and trying to tidy that up and try to get it out in the next couple of months. But, when you're down at Sacsayhuaman or Ollantaytambo or some of these incredible megalithic sites, not only in Peru, but other places, like the mounds in the United States, something else is going on here.
Like the Serpent Mound.
Yeah, like the Serpent Mound. Something else is happening. And unfortunately, mainstream archaeology kind of turns its nose up to it because it doesn't fit their paradigm.
Right. Well, you're right in line with looking at the Paracas skulls like Brian Forrester and looking at the ancient civilizations that appear to be more advanced than some of the ones right after that. But kind of moving into what we're seeing in modern culture, we're seeing this fake alien invasion almost. This alleged Project Bluebeam, where it's allegedly where the government is bringing in new technologies that they've had, but they're kind of bringing it in under the pretext of, oh, it's not us, it's these UAPs, it's these UFOs. I find this going on at the same time as the real phenomenon. So it's a matter of government cover-up mixed in as well with the actual demonic phenomenon that is under the veil of this alien abduction, when it's these demonic forces.
When they really show up, and I'm not talking about Bluebeam, I'm talking about a mile-wide craft, and it's them. That's the game changer. I mean, that's what I've written about, warned against. This is the coming great deception. There's a scripture found in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, that be not troubled in mind or word or deed, that the day of the Lord is coming or gathering to him, that they will not come until the falling away happens, till the apostasia in the Greek. It doesn't mean rapture, in my opinion. It doesn't mean departure. What it means is a falling away. That's why it's apostasy and apostasia. But that begs the question, what event would cause, let's say, the apostasia to actually happen? And that, of course, is once they show up, a lot of people will fall away. A lot of people are going to fall away.
Yep. I don't know where you fall in terms of the pre-tribulation rapture or post-tribulation rapture, but it looks like the alien abduction narrative is going to be exactly what the elite will use if there is a rapture that's pre-tribulation. But another question I have for you is there cohesion, obviously, with powerful groups of humans and these beings? So I'm talking about as early back as Admiral Byrd in Antarctica and the mysteries that are going on over there. What do you have to say about that?
Well, first of all, I am pre-trib staunchly. Second of all, there's no way to vet Admiral Byrd's diary. There's no way. I mean, I could sit down in an afternoon and write Admiral Byrd's diary. So there's no trail, there's no source, there's no family member that's saying, yeah, we did this. You're not getting that. Is it a red herring? Very possible. That's why I don't go with it. Was Hitler obsessed with Antarctica? Absolutely. New Schwabenland, U-boats went missing after the war. Who knows what really happened? Who knows what's going on there? But I spoke to a gentleman at the Prophecy Watchers Conference who's been to Antarctica numerous times. Numerous times. So, it's like anything else. It's like, well, it's way down there. Who's going to go to Antarctica? But you can fly into Antarctica. You can do that. So there's a lot of nonsense, on the net and all this stuff. Admiral Byrd's diary is certainly one thing.
Hollow Earth falls into that.
It's never been vetted.
Where do you fall in line with this idea of deep underground military bases?
Absolutely, all day long, they're real. Mm-hmm. No doubt at all. No doubt. I've written about it in the Nephilim trilogy. I've had whistleblowers come up anonymously and talk about their experience in the deep underground military bases, DUMS. And it's true. I mean, that's the way the game is played. That's where they are. I'll give you one story. A guy in one of the agencies, his son was working in one of the deep underground military bases, and he just blurted out. They were at home on a Sunday watching football, and the son just blurts out, "I'm working with aliens, Dad. I don't know what to do." And what do you do with that? What do you do?
I mean, I've seen. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, that's just one, but we've had others. Not many, but we've had others. It's real. They're there. The deep underground military bases exist, and that's it's under the cover of darkness. No one knows where they are. It's the perfect hiding place.
Mm-hmm. Even in antiquity, we see where some of these cave systems that have been closed off by local military have cave drawings of these monstrosities or Nephilim that you see even from that time period. So it points others in the conspiracy realm towards Hollow Earth, but otherwise, you also have these deep underground military bases that are under mysterious operations.
Yeah, I concur.
Yeah. I was really excited when reading your book to see Russ Disdar's name. I wanted to ask you an opinion regarding that. So in Countermove, he mentions, well, not in Countermove, Russ Dizdar mentions the Dark Awakening or the Black Awakening in terms of these people that are secretly serving Satan in terms of basically like in a sleeper cell way. Do you have any additional information regarding that?
Things are manifesting. We get stories all the time. Things, the darkness is manifesting in ways that I've never seen it. I think we're moving into an area which is unprecedented, and it's a global. I mean, I could get down into the whole political, but I don't. Is this going to be on YouTube? Because if it's on YouTube, I won't say anything.
I'll cut out the sections. You can say what you'd like. I can cut them out.
All right, you should definitely censor this, but the bottom line is that the January.
Yeah, and you brought up some interesting. It's conjecture really, but there's a lot of people that have these experiences with demonic phenomenon where they mention these grays, and they tend to mention them as these suits in a way that basically house the demonic spirit because they need some sort of flesh, some sort of thing to manifest themselves within. There's an interesting video, EctoLife video, that I'd like to share with you. Let me share my screen. Sure. But I was keeping that in mind.
Yep.
Introducing EctoLife, the world's first artificial womb facility, powered entirely by renewable energy. EctoLife allows infertile couple to conceive a baby and become the true biological parents of their own offspring. It's a perfect solution for women who had their uterus surgically removed due to cancer or other complications. With EctoLife, premature births and C-sections will be a thing of the past. EctoLife is designed to help countries that are suffering from severe population decline, including Japan, Bulgaria, South Korea, and many others. The facility features 75 highly equipped labs. Each state-of-the-art lab can accommodate up to 400 growth pods or artificial wombs. Every pod is designed to replicate the exact conditions that exist inside the mother's uterus.
So, interestingly enough, the individual that has this concept, and of course they're bringing it out, kind of like the Blue Beam, this technology. The person's name is Hashem, and I believe God to communicate in all kinds of signs and wonders, but especially within a timeline, you have a man named. Oops, sorry, I have something playing. You have a man named Hashem, and that literally means God in Hebrew, or the name. And he's creating new creations without the mother's womb.
Yeah, it's another reason why we're in a window of time where he's got to come back soon, because you can't fix this anymore. I mean, you can't. I mean, we're gone. I mean, look, there was an article a decade ago, something like that, where it talked about, British scientists create 128 chimeras. So they're mixing the genome between men and mice, or men and pigs, or men and horses. And but they destroyed them all. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I believe that. Sure they did.
Right.
I really trust you guys, right? No. I mean, the godless Darwinists are down in the underground labs. They're already doing it. We've had reports of people seeing chimeras, and I believe that they're here. So this is another reason why we are at the end of days as we know it. This system is about to go through an unbelievable upheaval, culminating in the return of Christ, mm-hmm. His coming back, and he's going to come back, and the second coming, here he is. It's got to happen, because you can't fix this anymore. You've got people, godless men, godless women, who believe that they can be God, right? And that's what they mean. Harari is a perfect example of that. Mm-hmm. And again, read his book. I have. And his whole premise is, billions and billions of years ago, that's what they do. So it's over billions and billions. Well, I get that. But where does the first, as Ben Stein sits down with one of the premier Darwinists, of the 21st century, Richard Dawkins, in his movie Expelled. And folks, if you haven't seen Expelled, go watch it now. You need to see that. And Ben Stein goes to Richard Dawkins, where did the first self-replicating molecule come from? Dawkins has no answer. I don't know. No one knows. We don't know. Well, then if you don't know, shut up and sit down. And I say that with all due respect, sir. If you can't tell me we're the first self-replicating molecule, how can you be so sure about everything else? And of course, it's all, they just make it up as they go along. They just make it up. Well, we'll just make it, 10 billion years or 100 billion years or 1,000,000 billion years. What? It's just like somehow you're going to still get nothing from nothing. No, God spoke everything into existence. The beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were created by him. Without him was not anything made that was made. Now you can believe that. Well, that sounds like mythos, Ole. Or you can believe the mythos of Darwinism, where there is no prophetic thread that goes from Genesis to Revelation, which tells us that there's somebody dwelling outside space-time as we know it, that calls out the beginning before the end and the end before the beginning, as my good friend Chuck Missler used to say. And that's exactly where we are. That's who he is. And that's why that's why I love prophecy. I was drawn to prophecy 43 years ago, Zach, when I was a brand new Christian, just drawn to it. I was just going, wow, this is amazing. This isn't the fuzzy quatrains of Nostradamus. This is the word with great specificity. In the latter days, I will regather you from the four corners of the earth and reestablish you in your ancient homeland. Talking about Israel. Guess what? 1947. Can a nation be born in a day? Bam, there it is. I mean, there's no other book like it. And I just love some of these people. Oh, I know all about the Bible, I haven't read it, but I know all about it. Excuse me. I don't know where that accent came from, but whatever. The bottom line is I've been a student of the Bible for 43 years, going on 44. And I am blown away, absolutely blown away by what's in its pages. It is the truth. It is the truth. And folks, if you think you know Jesus, but you don't know him personally, then you don't know him. And I realize that's like a Yogi Berra saying for those of you who remember him, but it's true. If you think you know him, but you don't know him, if there's no personal relationship with the Son of God, Yeshua, Jesus, then there is none. Then you don't know him. And all I can tell you is you ask. That's all it is. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't need a special prayer. You ask him into your heart and believe that he was the one that was sent. That's all you got to do. And he will come in. If you invite him in, he will come in. He will come in and your life will change. Trust me.
I remember you talking in one of your earlier videos about how you used to be more New Age until you started to read a book by a particular author that kind of enlightened you in a way about the highest truth. What was the name of that book?
It was Dave Hunt.
Dave Hunt?
It was The Kingdom of the Cults, I believe.
Okay.
I always get it, The Cult Explosion or The Kingdom of the Cults. I get the titles mixed up. One was Walter Martin, the other one was Dave Hunt. They were contemporaries. The one I read, which changed my life, was Dave Hunt, and I believe it's called Kingdom of the Cults. Kingdoms of the Cults. And at the end, there's a little prayer. And I said the prayer and waited. Nothing happened. A month later, all hell broke loose. I was being pulled out of the kingdom of darkness, and they didn't want me to leave.
Well, I have a few questions from my community. They wanted to ask you a few questions. I'll get to those in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and connect some things. I made a video in the past connecting CERN, the Big Hadron Collider, with this EctoLife that's going on. With CERN, you have speculation regarding the interdimensional contact. They're getting data, they're receiving data and putting data out there and receiving it back, like something is communicating back. So in a way, that is the spiritual realm. And then with this EctoLife, you have a new way to create the physical. So the combination of those two things makes for a very interesting discussion about the possible vessel of demons or antichrist. But like you said, in these deep underground military bases, this could actually still be going on right now. But in regards to CERN, what is your opinion regarding CERN?
Well, I've been to CERN. I was there, and I actually interviewed Tim Alberino underneath Shiva, the god of destruction. You know? And when you look at the pagan ceremony that was done there, I mean, with the guy with the goat head, I mean, it's all, look no further. You know exactly what they're trying to do.
Right.
On the old temple of Apollyon is where CERN is built. They're trying to open up the gateway. They're trying to open up the gateway to allow them. What they don't understand is shamans have been doing this forever. That's why when you see the reverse spiral like this is a reverse spiral.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you see that, that means don't go there because there's something coming through. And that's what the shamans, and that symbol, by the way, is used all over the globe. So if it's clockwise, it's good. If it's counterclockwise, buyer
An
beware.
abstraction. Yeah.
So there are gateways, there are portals that are opened, that are opening now. One such one is Skinwalker Ranch. There's no doubt about it in my mind that there's a portal that's there. There's a gateway that's open. Marumora, right on the Peruvian-Bolivian border. I was also there. Brian Forrester was our guide. People have seen light beings coming out of the doorway. Yeah, I mean, these places are highly charged places where rituals are done to appease the gatekeeper, as it were. But the portals do open and stuff comes through. There's no doubt about it.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and move into the questions that some people have for you. Let's see. So the first one, someone asked, how did one Nephilim end up in Afghanistan, and why haven't we seen more?
You broke up. How did one?
Oh, how did one Nephilim end up in Afghanistan, and why haven't we seen more?
Well, again, they're not going to pop out and go, "Hi, here we are." It's just not going to do that. It's
Right.
like, do fallen angels exist? Oh yeah. When was the last time anybody saw one? So
Yeah, exactly.
when was the last time Beelzebub showed up on 60 Minutes for an interview? Ain't
Right.
gonna happen. So the giants are there. And if you look at the Middle East, going east, Afghanistan's a stone's throw. I mean, in terms of if you're a giant fleeing the Levant or the Promised Land, you make your way over. Not in a day, but you make your way over. And you get out, and maybe you settle in Iran, because we know that people in Iran, or Iraq, I should say, have seen giants in Iraq. We know that. So maybe they made their way to Iraq, Iran, and then there's Afghanistan. It's not that big. It's not that far of a stretch, as it were. But we also know that some of them went west. Some of the Nephilim tribes went west. That skull behind me, in my opinion, is what I would consider a Nephilim skull.
And they all have red hair.
Well, some of them have red hair. Many of them have red hair. 6 fingers, red hair, double rows of teeth. Not all of them are giants. The elongated skulls that we see, there's morphological differences in those. And I just want to say that Joe Taylor, who was the guy that molded this skull, passed away last week. And we're very deeply saddened by that. Joe was a good friend. But let me just show you, since we're on the subject of this real quick. So, let me just take the duct tape off. I really got to get Joe in here to try to fix this, but that's not going to happen now. So anyway, so when you look at the orbits are 25 to 30% bigger than a human being, right there. When you look at the top of the skull, there should be a sagittal suture that runs from the frontal plate here all the way back like this. Absent, completely absent. No sagittal suture. The smoking gun is this. This is the foramen magnum. This is the brain where the skull, the spinal column attaches to the brain. Okay. This white stuff here was the molding clay, so Joe could put the dowel in like that to display it. But the actual foramen magnum would sit right there. This is the foramen magnum. Okay. It's all the way in the back. If it's further back, it's outside the skull. You can't cradle headboard a child and have that work. It's just not, It's just not going to happen. So this is genetic. And that's why in number 7, you can go to our streaming site, streaming.lamarzulli.net, instant gratification, and download number 7, which is the complete DNA analysis of this. It's unbelievable. We're the only team that's ever done this and made it public.
That's
so
awesome.
there you go. So,
Yeah.
there's one on Gaia TV, but it's kind of funky.
Right.
In my opinion. So
Gaia is kind of funky.
Gaia's funky.
Is there any connection between the Nephilim and the pyramids, in your opinion?
When you're looking at the Pyramid of Giza, it defies, Zawi Hawass gets up and goes, pyramid, pyramid, pyramid. He's just like, shut up, go away. Don't even start there with your nonsense with Cheops and Khufu and all this nonsense. Just show us, okay? And a Japanese film crew went into Egypt to show the people how the Egyptians created the pyramids. So they gave them the copper saws, and they were supposed to cut the limestone block, and they couldn't do it. So they bring in a diamond blade saw and they cut the limestone block. Then they're supposed to use the rollers. They were supposed to move the stones on rollers, and they couldn't do it. So a crane came up, picked up the block, put it on the back of a truck. Then they had their goofy papyrus boats, a replica, and they were supposed, this is a real story, okay? And they were supposed to load the block on the papyrus boat. They did that, the boat sank. So the Egyptians went, get out. The bottom line is, Zawi, let's not even talk about the casing stones. Let's not even talk about the blocks. Let's not even talk about that the pyramid is actually an 8-sided pyramid. Let's not talk about any of that. Let's not talk about the fact that the actual foundation is almost dead level. Let's not talk about any of that. Okay, Zawi? Just show me this. And if you can't show me, then stop lying to us, because we're sick of it. We've all had it up to here. Show us how you took the granite stones that are above the king's chamber from Aswan, 500 miles away. Just show us how you did that. The heck with anything else, sand ramps, no. Zawi, guess what? If you can't cut granite in the Neolithic, then you can't cut granite. If you have no way, and these things are the size of freight cars, if you can't move the granite blocks, then just shut up. But he never goes there, because that blows the whole thing out of water. They're granite. They're from Aswan, 500 miles away. Can't be done. Can't be done. You can't cut granite in the Neolithic. They don't have the tools to do it. Stop lying to me. Stop lying to us. Stop promulgating a false narrative when you have no idea of what you're talking about. End of story. But he gets up there and he's all bombastic and, pyramid. And he's like, he was the head of Egyptian, the grand poobah of Egyptology. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's a narrative, because they've got to go there. It's all the same thing, Zach. You got to understand that. Because if they can't prove that it was done, now what? Now what?
So they're asking, what is your opinion on the Gilgamesh Tomb found in Iraq in around 2003?
There are some people that believe it was found, and you can't go to the Freedom of Information Act. That would be like me writing in and going, hey, what about Nimrod and the Gilgamesh?
Right.
You can't, that's not evidence. Mm-hmm. But there's so much nonsense. You can't go with stuff like that unless you can vet it. That's why when I'm on the trail, I'm vetting stuff. Our books, on the trail 1 and 2. I mean, you don't need rumor. Look at our videos. Number 5, the crop circle. Number 4, the abduction phenomena on the UFO thing. We have 4 people who have been taken. Sperm is taken from the men, ovum taken from the women. I mean, the women's testimony is visceral. The babies are taken from them in the third month of the first trimester. I'm not making this stuff up. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is why we make the films and write the books, because we with the body of work that's there under my name. I mean, it's growing, it's voluminous, and you could do a deep dive and spend a couple of weeks binge watching and reading and all this other stuff. I mean, we can't possibly cover it all in a 45, 50-minute interview. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. We're just scratching the surface. So, go to lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net. If you want instant gratification, our streaming site, just download them and watch them. Streaming at lamarzulli.net, streaming, I'm sorry, not at, streaming.lamarzulli.net. And, you know, you can binge watch and come up to speed. What amazes me is a lot of Johnny-come-latelys now jumping on the UFO bandwagon, you know, because it's the latest thing. Meanwhile, some of us have been in the trenches for decades warning about this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, I'm patting myself on the back here, but, you know, for decades, this is the coming great deception. And now the cat's out of the bag. So it's going to happen.
Right. Well, everybody, I encourage you to go and check out L.A. Marzulli on YouTube. Give him a subscription. He has some fantastic content regarding all of this. And I just want to thank you again, sir, for this great interview and letting some more people know about this world that they live in.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate you having me on. God bless you.
God bless you.